Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today I want to be discussing the arcs of Campaign 1 and 2, but specifically this one is going to be Campaign 1. Campaign 2 will be on Friday. That's Friday's video. So, Campaign 1. We're going to be discussing all of the arcs from Campaign 1, and I'm going to rank them at the end, but I want to discuss them, talk about what's good about them, talk about what's bad about them, and at the end I'll go through it quickly and rank them based on how I talk about them from before. So, let's get right into it. So there are 5 arcs in Campaign 1. Craghammer and Vasselheim, which honestly could have been 2 arcs. Then there's the Briarwood arc, there's the Chroma Conclave arc, the Taryon Darrington arc, and the Vecna arc. So we're going to start with Craghammer and Vasselheim. Let's get into it. It only makes sense to start with the beginning, and that's Craghammer and Vasselheim, Arc 1 of Campaign 1. This was the introduction to Vox Machina. First time we got to meet all of the lovely characters that we all love so much to this day, except for one, and I'm going to have to talk about him today. But this was a 23 episode arc, and took place in 2, technically 3 separate locations: Craghammer, Vasselheim, and the Underdark. And actually Iman, there's there an Iman for a little bit as well. So, what's the whole point of this arc? Well, it was the introduction arc for us, but they went to go find Lady Kima, who disappeared in Craghammer, and then after that, they go to Vasselheim for what I'm going to say is reasons, because honestly, Vasselheim, in my opinion, is not fun to watch. It is kind of a slog. They get separated in 2 groups because of some of the crap that they pull in Vasselheim. So, yeah. Ultimately, Craghammer and the Underdark portion is better than the Vasselheim portion, in my opinion. So let's start with Craghammer. They're to go into into Craghammer and look for Lady Kima. They get told that she went down into the Underdark, so they have to follow her down there. And this is where they meet a bunch of chaos. There's so much crap going on down here. They meet, his name is escaping me for some reason, the Mind Flayer, who they befriend, and then they betray him, or he betrays them. And they run into a beholder that has a horn that's very magical in his head, and that horn is basically what Kima was going after. So they grab the horn after killing it and then leave. And in this entire portion of what they're doing, they're kind of on the back foot a lot for the most part. It's quite interesting. The first time we ever see them, they're kind of on the wrong side of what's going on. They are losing a lot of it, and they have to hide. They have to make sure that they rest enough. They have to make sure that they're safe, to make sure that they have enough crap as they move forward, because this was, weirdly enough, very harrowing, because they had never gone down into the Underdark before, and now they were just getting thrusted into it. So they ran into Mind Flayers, Draugr, all sorts of stuff. Within the first 3 episodes, Grog nearly dies by one of the Mind Flayer little creatures. So it's a fun arc, the first half of this arc, but then they get out of there, they go to Vasselheim, and honestly, one of the most, in my opinion, boring sections ever to come out of Critical Role. I just have no other way to put it. The best thing that I can remember from the Vasselheim stuff, first of all, it's not memorable either. It's boring and not memorable. I don't remember any of the fights in it. I don't remember too many of the things they did. The only thing that I remember, or the only things, are the people they ran into. That being the great and amazing Victor for the first time, and then they ran into a bunch of guest characters. Will Wheaton was there. Forget his character's name, to be honest. I don't know if they met Zara and Kashaw here for the first time, but they saw them, and there was a bunch of that stuff within this arc. And now time for the 2 major elephants in the room about this arc. It's hard to watch, and what I mean by that is simply there's a lot of growing pains with this arc. And that is because the stream is hard to watch, the audio is hard to listen to, and there is a certain person who's there. And that's the second thing I have to talk about. So, let's start with the stream quality and the video quality. If you go back and watch these, it's hard. It's so hard to watch this because, like I said, visually, there are some portions of the first 23, even, the first 30 episodes of Critical Role has this problem. But where half of the videos on YouTube are just blurry. It's hard to watch sometimes, and I would imagine as this was, again, back in 2015, 2016, so it's kind of something you have to give a pass for, but they weren't given a lot of money to make this good by Geek and Sundry. They kind of just got told, hey, try it out, whatever. They didn't put too much thought behind how much to give the money towards them to do something good with it. So it's kind of rough to watch in that sense. Same with the audio. Exact same thing with the audio. So there's times when you watch it where the audio is so bad. And during this portion, and frankly throughout all of Campaign 1, there are moments where the top screen where half the players are sitting or the bottom screen where half the players are sitting is just either black or frozen. It's crazy. And it's kind of unfortunate that it has to deal with this because you'll hear a lot of people say, just skip the first 24 episodes when you hear somebody try to introduce you to Critical Role. I heard that. When I read it, I was trying to figure out, when I read about watching it, I was trying to figure out where to start because I didn't want to watch 115 episodes of this thing. I've done it now, but at the time, I wanted to just, get the major parts. So what happened was I got told, skip the first 23 episodes. I just decided not to watch it at that point because I was like, that's silly, and eventually I'd come back and watch it. But, yeah, the first arc is rough. It's kind of insane to go through because of all the crap that's around it with audio, visuals, and they kind of, I don't want to put it down, but like when you look at them doing battle maps and stuff, and a lot of it is very basic grid paper and a handful of minis and drawings that Matt did, compare that to now, which honestly, if Geek and Sundry thought about it for more than a couple minutes, they should have given them at least bare minimum to be able to pay for good miniature interactive stuff at the time. Because that stuff was available. That stuff wasn't, never heard of before. 3.5 was big, and people were making good maps for that stuff. So it's not impossible to look back on it and go, well, they could have put more money toward the minis. So there's those kind of things. But then there's one last big fucking terrible wart I have to talk about for the first arc. And that is Tiberius Stormwind or Orion Akba, who was the 8th player. For those of you who only came in for Campaign 2 and Campaign 3, there used to be 8 players, not a guest player. He was in the first 23 episodes. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's in the first 24, but they got rid of him. He's a crappy human being for many reasons that I'm not going to get into, but he's also a crappy player. He cheated. He would, make sexual comments. He would make stupid comments. He'd get angry. He'd get flustered. He would just do a bunch of stuff. There was one fight in particular while they were in the Underdark, fighting fighting the Beholder, where he had a terrible string of turns where all he was doing was getting frustrated. And it got everyone else around him frustrated. And everyone was getting mad. And he was just getting mad and mad and mad. And then he came in because he was doing something else for the first handful of turns. And then he came back and just started doing 50 million things. And he kept saying, my sorcerer points, let me do this. And it was just terrible to watch. He was hard to watch and really annoying. And he was there for 24 episodes, and it's terrible. But another example for terrible playerness is he tried to convince Sam, or Scanlan, to give him an item. Now, lots of people look at it and think that that's a funny moment, but you got to cut back to an episode prior where he actually tried to make Matt, who had to sort of Jaeger Sam's character because Sam wasn't there, to give him the item. He did it while Sam wasn't there at the first. So then when the next episode happened and he was there, he tried again. I don't remember if he got the item or not, but it was still incredibly arrogant. And he took like a full hour and a half to do his own shopping moment where he was trying to make some stupid contraption because I guess people were getting all like hyped about Percy being a tinkerer guy. So he was like, oh, I'm going to do that shit. And yeah, it was bad. He's annoying. I don't want to mention the half chub, but I will. You know what? Fuck it. Look it up. It's terrible. You can see how pissed Travis gets at the half chub comment. It's terrible. Oren Akba is terrible. Tiberius had his funny moments, but he was just marred by a terrible player. So glad they got rid of him. Glad they cut him and all of his crap out of Legend of Vox Machina animated series. I don't even know if they even considered having him or not. I'm just glad they didn't. So there's that. Yeah, that's Arc 1. Rough. That's all I'm going to say. Arc 1 is rough. And if, I've spent 10 minutes on this one alone, so I think most of you can wager this is the one that I think is the worst arc. Now let's talk about the rest and see what I can determine to be the best. And next, we have the Briarwood arc. So the Briarwood arc is a revenge story for Percy, as Percy wants to get vengeance for the people that destroyed his family. So, when they show up in Tal'Dorei and begin muddling about, and they, Vox Machina take issue with this and decide to, deal with it, they then get accused by the Tal'Dorei Council of being destructive and not necessarily trustworthy, as these people they went after were allies of theirs. They get kicked off the Tal'Dorei Council and need to go prove that they're right, that they are the ones in the right here. So they follow them back to Whitestone, where we get a plethora of amazing character moments, great fights, all sorts of good moments. Pike, for the first time ever was a astral projection, as she did not go with the party because Ashley wasn't there. And then we got Scanbo. We got all the issues with doors. That is now a running thing that doesn't seem to ever want to go away. They can never do good with doors. And just so many fun moments. Everything to do with Orthax surrounding all this, with Percy and his sister's manipulation by the Briarwoods, because it was Stockholm Syndrome-y and it was very interesting. The friggin' Sun Tree. The Sun Tree was insane. And then there was also Scanlan's amazing counterspell moment that he had, I believe, at the midway point of this arc. Just a ton of great moments leading into this, or not leading into this arc, in this arc. So many good fights. Scanlan versus the Goliath, whose name I forget, which was Scanbo. Then there was their fight against the Briarwoods themselves, the fight against people within Percy's backstory. Just an overall fun arc. Also, the Orthax fight, which to me is one of my favorite fights. So just a good arc. And this arc also was the beginning of the escape of the Growing Pains, as they got more money. They got their audio issues fixed up for the most part. Visually, they were kind of still getting there. But overall, this arc did a lot of good. And it didn't have It didn't have Orion, Akba. So no Tiberius, which is nice. And I'm pretty sure this is one of the handful of arcs where they don't have a guest. But another thing I want to bring up about this arc is it's kind of short. It's only 14 episodes, which, when you think about it, doesn't feel like it. But honestly, when you hear people say, skip arc 1 and go right to the Briarwood arc, I think they have a good case. First of all, it's a really good arc. It's a lot better. Orion Akba's not there. And it's really short compared to two of the other longer arcs in this game. Specifically, the next arc, which is impossibly long. So it's a really short arc, possibly the shortest. And, just a lot of fun. No guests, so we don't have to worry about being introduced to new characters halfway through who we've either met before or don't. It's just a good arc to start off with if you do choose to skip arc 1. And a lot of fun. This is where lots of people fell in love with Critical Role. That's why a lot of them say it's the best arc. So yeah, just overall a very good, fun arc filled with lots of dark themes and a lot of the beginning of redemption for Percy. So very good arc, fun arc, very personal arc for us, as we've spent 23 episodes with him before this. So we feel for him when all this starts to go down. So, an amazing arc. And we're only the second arc in. Let's see what number 3 holds for us. And now it's time for me to talk about Arc 3, the Chroma Conclave. The largest arc in Campaign 1. I believe it's 44 episodes long. Episode 39 to 83. And it involves the Dragons of the Chroma Conclave attacking the city of Iman for, starting Thordak's evil reign over the world, or his attempted reign over the world, as he joined forces with several other dragons to achieve this goal, as they, with their combined might, no one could challenge them, and happened to attack while Vox Machina was there and pissed them off. So it starts an insanely long arc of revenge, freeing several cities and several different locations, traveling across the majority of the planet. I would say they basically just don't touch Wildmount, but they hit everywhere else. I believe Marquette, they get some other places. They get a lot of Taldore. It's an incredibly long arc, and they go over everywhere to collect the vestiges of Divergence. They have several different dragon fights in this arc. It's incredibly long. I just can't specify how long this arc is to watch. It is 44 episodes, each being roughly 4 hours long. So I'm no mathematician, but that's a lot. That takes up the majority of this entire arc. It's crazy, and it's fun. There's a lot of good character moments. Everyone has a good moment in this arc. Grog has a great moment. Each of them have great moments. Vex, Vax, Percy. I don't think anyone misses out on any really good moments, with the exception of maybe Pike, but I'm pretty sure she has a good few in there as well, where she gets to, where we get to see her with her grandfather, and it's just a fun time overall, as they have to, again, starting off on the back foot, take out one dragon one by one, and eventually they side with Rayshawn, and this is where we get to see Vax fly. I don't think he flies for the first time, but he gets to make his full commitment to the Raven Queen, and we get to see many returning guest players, and we get to see some of the the coolest guest players show up. So lots of fun had in this super long one. Some of my favorite fights, obviously the dragon fights, but one of my favorite moments of all time was the fight against Kevdak, Grog's uncle, and that moment for me will forever live on as one of my favorite moments from all of campaign 1. It is just a badass moment, super fun, and the fight leading up to it was super intense, because not only did they have to fight him and a handful of his Goliath followers, but right after that they had to fight Umbrasil, the Black Dragon, not once but twice, and they almost lost Scanlan and Vax during that fight. Very close. It was just this was such a big arc, to the point where this could have happened. They could have wrapped up a few more things, and that could have been the end of campaign 1. But instead, they do other things beyond this, obviously, and it's just such a high point of the series for me personally, because dragons, first of all, very rarely does Dungeons and Dragons actually contain Dungeons and Dragons, but this one has plenty of those. I mean, a lot of them, and it's cool. And obviously, the relationship between the Chroma Conclave always looking to get one step on, ahead of each other, which led to their downfall ultimately, as Rayshawn sided with Vox Machina to take down Thordak. Just a super fun, filled with tons of intrigue, tons of mystery. We get to learn the most about Matt's world in this arc from campaign 1, and it's just really fun. I really enjoyed most of the villains, really enjoyed all the way the characters changed in this arc, not just with who they were personally and physically, but they also got to sort of grow with their vestiges, because that was literally the point of the vestiges. They grow as you do, and I think that was really fun to see, both that, them growing themselves and them growing in strength was really fun. So really enjoyed this arc. Probably, if it wasn't for the size, I would say this is my favorite arc, because first of all, fighting dragons is always badass. Fighting family members is always badass, like Grog's fight. Tons of great moments from Vax, who I personally am not the biggest fan of. So when I got to enjoy moments from him, that's always positive. Everyone had good moments. This is just an overall really fun arc. And 0 growing pains. They are now out of the bad audio, bad streaming era completely. I don't think there's a single moment where I was like, ooh, the audio is bad. It's good. It's all good from this point on, and that's a good thing. Arc 4, Taryon Darrington. This is a great arc. Another kind of shorter arc. This is only about 16 episodes, and it's really fun. It is an arc about tying up loose ends from the campaign up to this point. They finished Keyleth's Aramente. They do a handful of other things, like dealing with Hodis, the Rakashta that's always been bothering them throughout early parts of the campaign. I don't believe we actually ever saw Hodis before this point within the live streaming, so it was a first for us. And then we also got the revival of Scanlan, to which then he left because Vox Machina decided to bring his daughter in, which is the one thing he asked them not to do. So he left with her, which then brought in Taryon Darrington to fill the shoes left behind by Scanlan. And this is an awesome arc. It is such a fun arc for me because it's just a moment of kind of peace, because the first thing you do is go to the Aramente to sort of wrap that up, but they have to go fight a Kraken. So there's like, there's peace, but then they put themselves in danger to sort of finish things up. And then they go to the city of Dis, because they built Dis City. And that's a fun portion for me as well. Really enjoyed the whole atmosphere that Matt brought with Dis. And we had an interesting guest show up, and they caught Hodis as he was trying to be resurrected. So really fun for the most part. I enjoy Terry's story in this arc as well. It's named after him for a reason, and that's because this arc is a short story for him. This is the only arc where he is a prevalent, like super, super prevalent character. He is in the next one, but not to a super high degree. And this is an awesome arc where he believes he wants to be an adventurer, and then he gets shown what it means to be one. They pick on him at first because, like, oh, what's this idiot doing? He shouldn't be here, blah, blah, blah. And he kind of shows his heart to them, so they kind of bring him in after a bit of a bribe. And then, as we learn more and more about him, we get to understand him more about what he's doing, why he wants to do the things he does. And eventually he gets kidnapped by his father, or someone who was hired by his father to kidnap him. And we go to to Wildemount for the first time, and we get to see what's wrong with his family and what's up with Terry, like what exactly drove the wedge between them. And it was just a fun, interesting story. I like Terry's story. I know there was a bit of drama surrounding the story from some of the fans, as it felt a little controversial. But the outcome of it was good. Terry became a lot of everyone's best friends in the group, specifically, I believe, Terry and Vex became very close friends. So that was really cool for those two to connect. And in this arc, we also had a Pike moment that surrounded her family, which was a big con, which is part of the name, Trickfoot. So a good arc, short arc. It was exactly what it needed to be, and it was really fun. Don't know what else to really say about it other than that. It was fun, and like I said before, we were out of the growing pain sort of calamity we had before. We're now in good streaming, good audio, good visuals. So yeah, and I believe this arc, or the Chroma Conclave arc, was like the start of like really, really good Battlegrounds. I forget which one specifically. It was probably the Chroma Conclave. I should have mentioned that before. But yeah, this was just a fun arc, and I like the whole Scanlan leaving thing. That took place in this arc, by the way. I had to look. It was this arc where that happened, where they revived him, and he left. So yeah, that's this arc. Sounds good? Sounds good. And now, for Arc 5, Vecna. This is crazy. This arc is good. This arc is great. It's really short. It's only 15 episodes, so it's really easy to just hop back in and watch it from, that episode. We get the reintroduction to Scanlan. We get the reintroduction to the Briarwoods. We get one of my favorite guest characters, which was Lionel Gayhart. I love that character. I think he's hilarious. And the duck thing just kills me. And we get to, as opposed to going around grabbing the weapons of gods, we go and get the backing of gods. And to me, that's an incredible step forward. It's a literal step forward, going from grabbing their weapons to now getting them on their side. I think that's a perfect way to show where they're at in their story, and I really enjoy this. And Vecna as a ever-looming presence over them as he works through the background. And they meet him really early in this arc, and he literally kills one of the players and just really goes on to cement himself as a very good villain and as someone to be feared, because they were level 17, 18 at the time when they interacted with him. So they were kind of high on their own britches, thinking that they were just going to be able to go in, have no issues, and bam, someone gets axed off. We also got the introduction to Archon in this arc, which is also one of my favorite guest characters, and also Sprig. I can't get over how much I love Sprig. He's a great guest. It's just a fun time. We got to see multiple guests returning, with Zara and Kasha also returning. Just lots of good. Anything that was left hanging from the previous arcs was now closed after this arc was resulted, and the death of Vax was final. He didn't, they didn't get to save him from the Raven Queen. I do think that is the only thing I don't necessarily like about this arc, which is his revival felt like a mild ass pull. That's just me personally, but I understood the way they went about it. He was, the goddess of death is his effectively his patron, or his divine entity who he prays to. So makes sense that he would convince her hey, bring me back and then I will forever be your champion in the afterlife. It makes sense, and I get it. I also understand that it was way too late for them to introduce a new character for Liam to play. So I'm glad they didn't do that, because then it would feel super shallow. But at the same time, if you're going to do that, might as well just majorly injure him instead of just outright kill him. But I don't know, just me. So that's my only gripe about this arc. The rest is awesome. The Titan is great. The getting involved with all the cities, Vasselheim, everywhere, attacking this Titan at the same time, leading to them fighting this thing. Archon being there in the end to chop his hand off and put it on himself. It is a fantastic arc, with the exception of that little mild revival ass pull, but that's just me. And again, no issues with any of the audio or any of the visuals. And we had amazing sets. The set of them in the final battle is awesome for the minis. And again, plenty of amazing moments. I'll always remember the moment where Vex flies up and sort of gets the honor of the Dawnfather, and sort of gets that person, and that got on their side, and they go and meet Saren Ray. I really enjoyed the portions where they were meeting the gods. Ioun is also a fun one for me, because that's where Vex and Percy reveal that they're married, which pissed off Vax and Keyleth, because they could never get married. Ouch. He's dead. So that's sad. And then my favorite all-time moment of Campaign 1, which is Scanlan is the DM, and he counterspells Vecna in one of the most clutch moments ever, and he closes the pen, and is like, that's why I got closer, motherfucker. I will always love that moment. So, tons of great moments. Nothing truly, truly, truly wrong with this arc, with the except annoyance that I feel toward a mild ass pull revival. That's just me, though. Most people will disagree with that. So yeah, that's Vecna, Arc 5. So now, because I arbitrarily like to rank things, which is what I like to do, in last place is Craghammer and Vasselheim Arc 1. Just kind of rough. And if you were to ask me if you should skip this one, depends on the day, I might say yes. Because it's rough, lots of growing pains, or an Akba. Simple as that. In fourth place, I have Vecna. I think it's a very good arc. Really short and really easy to watch. But I do find mild annoyance with Vax's revival. So that puts it down here. And then in third is the Arc 4, Taryon Darrington. Super short arc. But if you don't know a lot of the information going into what they're doing, it's kind of hard to really get invested. So if you're just going to watch these arcs randomly, that's a little difficult. In second place is Arc 3, the Chroma Conclave. And it's only here because it's super long and hard to watch if you're not going to dedicate yourself to watching 44 episodes, which is 176 hours if you do the basic math there. So, yeah, hard to get into and hard to watch, but I think otherwise it's perfect. And I really enjoy this arc. It's got lots of great fights, lots of great moments. So, pains me to put it number 2, but it's super long, so it's kind of hard to watch. And in first place is the Briarwood arcs. Arc 2, Briarwood arc 2. Love this arc. Super short, has great character moments, fun battles. It does have those growing pains, but honestly, it's at the point where they're starting to move past them, so it's really okay to watch and kind of push through. So yeah, lots of fun, and you get to see early Critical Role where a lot of them are a little bit more, they're normal. They're a bit more normal and less produced, so it's a good thing. I really enjoy this arc as well. Depends on the day. I could put Chroma Conclave above this one, but I would probably say, just for the sake of ease of watching, this one will always be better, personally. So yeah, that is my ranking for these, and I will see you guys on Friday for Campaign 2's rankings. The Campaign 2 video of this same type. See you then. Peace.